Welcome back to Fantasy Files 1054 or FFX54 for short. We're going to get into the running back rankings for week 6. This is going to be, we're going to see some names on here that we're not used to seeing due to the bye. There's a lot of teams on bye that have very solid running backs. So you're going to see some names we're not used to seeing, but this is the part of the season that it gets really interesting. A lot of trades are happening right now because people are trying to grab anything they can if they're 1-4, trying to hang on to the season, or people are in a position where they're comfortable and can invest in the long term. So a lot of trades. In one of my leagues, today was the craziest trading day I've ever seen. In my friend league, it was a 10-team full PPR, just a normal fantasy league on ESPN. Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, and Cooper Kupp all change teams today. So this is the time of the season where you can really move around some big names depending on record. So use this to your advantage, and let's just get right into it. All right, so right off the bat, we'll throw the running back ones up. Starting off with Saquon Barkley. He's in a little bit more of a difficult matchup here against the Baltimore Ravens. They do pretty well against the running backs, but it's Saquon Barkley, so he's in a tier of his own. And even if the Ravens are decent at stopping the run, they're pretty horrible at stopping the pass. And Saquon Barkley really plays every position on the offense. He plays wide receiver, he plays running back, he plays quarterback, he plays lineman, if you want to consider it that. I'm sure he might even line up as a tight end here and there. So, normally by position, points matter, but Saquon Barkley, he's the clear number one on the season, so we'll leave it at that. Austin Eckler has finally been producing, and the same thing applies to him going up against Denver in a tough matchup. I'm not as worried about it just because Austin Eckler is very involved in the passing game, getting wide receiver-like targets, as well as getting touches on the ground. So if he's going to keep being very efficient when he does touch the ball, I'm not too worried about his snap count being down a little bit from last year. We saw him put up 30 points back-to-back. Looks like he's returned into his last season form, and we'll leave him at 2. Nick Chubb is a little bit different because even though he's been absolutely insane this year, I think the matchup does affect him a little bit more due to the fact that he's not involved in the passing game. So the New England Patriots are going to be a pretty good defense when it comes to points allowed versus the running back position, only allowing, only allowing 15.9 fantasy points per game, which is the 6th least overall. And like I said, I think Nick Chubb gets affected by the matchup a little bit more than a pass-catching back. So we dropped down Nick Chubb down to the 3rd running back overall. Right behind Nick Chubb, we have Jonathan Taylor. Kind of a similar situation, but Jonathan Taylor always does decent against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that them resting him last week will really give him a solid break to heal, feel 100%, and get back to his old self. The volume has been there all year, every time he's played. He just hasn't been producing. This whole offense has been struggling. But you got to remember, there's a lot of new pieces on this offense. I'm not saying that they're going to turn into a top 10 offense, but I think that they figure it out to a certain degree at some point. And I think that this is a prime week for Jonathan Taylor to really step back into his last season form and show us why people drafted him number 1 overall. Right behind Christian McCaffrey, I was talking about how a lot of people are matchup proof if you're a pass catching back, which Christian McCaffrey has been catching, almost getting more touches through receptions than on the ground. But the Los Angeles Rams are the best defense in the league when it comes to letting up fantasy points in a game, only allowing 14.1 fantasy points per game. So I think Christian McCaffrey is still a very solid top tier running back this week, but I knocked him down a little bit just due to the matchup. Right behind him, we have Leonard Fournette. Great matchup, great for the game script. Leonard Fournette has been getting a ton of work in the receiving game. I think he had 11 receptions last week. Just absolutely absurd. This Tampa Bay offense is really stepping back into form with all of their wide receivers back, and I think Leonard Fournette is benefiting from that. Right after Leonard Fournette, we have Ramondre Stevenson and a beautiful matchup against the Cleveland Browns, allowing the 2nd most fantasy points per game to running backs with 26.9, which I would have liked Ramondre Stevenson in this matchup anyways. But the reason we have him so high is because Damian Harris is going to miss this game, and Ramondre Stevenson gets all of the work. So he's going to get bell cow usage. And even if Mac Jones comes back for this week, he still might be on, he might still be feeling that injury a little bit, and they might try to put the ball on the ground a little bit more than usual, especially up against this matchup. So Ramondre Stevenson is a smash pick this week, and I wish I still had him on my team. I traded him last week for Ramondre Stevenson. I traded Ramondre Stevenson for George Kittle because I was in a must-win situation. Ended up not even needing George Kittle, but it's feeling a little bit sore this week. I keep making references to my fantasy teams. If you go back on my channel, I made a video after draft day showing all of my fantasy teams, and even a couple preseason trades. A lot has changed throughout the course of the past 6 weeks. So if you guys want a midseason update on where my teams are out, just out of curiosity and pure fun, just let me know in the comments below, and I could make that for you, just to see where we're at. But moving on, we have Dalvin Cook in a favorable matchup against the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins have been allowing 21.3 fantasy points per game to the running back position. I'm not worried about Dalvin Cook's usage because I think what this is doing, I'm happy about it because I think this is in an effort to keep Dalvin Cook on the field. Now, I know Dalvin Cook has already had a little bit of injury issues, I think with his shoulder past couple weeks, but I'm not too worried about it. I think that the usage is in that effort to limit his touches to a degree and keep him on the field. And I still think he's going to have plenty of opportunities, and he's still a very skilled back. So up against Miami Dolphins defense, who is not too great against the run, I still like Dalvin Cook in this matchup. One thing I noticed about this week is we have a lot of really top tier running backs in hard matchups. So that shakes up this top 12 ranking system a little bit as well. So just keep that in mind. Because really none of these top guys other than Fournette and Aaron Jones have favorable matchups. Ramondre Stevenson is only up here because of his situation. I wouldn't consider him a top tier back as far as rankings go. So it's kind of a weird week, like we mentioned earlier in the video. But moving on from Dalvin Cook, we have Alvin Kamara again in a very tough matchup. Cincinnati Bengals are fourth best against the run, allowing 15.4 fantasy points per game. So again, Alvin Kamara is involved in the receiving game. We saw that vintage Alvin Kamara game last week. He had over 20 points with no touchdowns, close to if not over 100 yards through the air. So Alvin Kamara, even in a tough matchup, I still like him as our 9th back overall. Right behind Alvin Kamara, we have Aaron Jones, one of our more favorable matchups at the running back position. In the beginning of the season, I was worried about A.J. Dillon encroaching on his, turn into that 1B running back. But over the past few weeks, we've kind of seen him scale it back a little bit. Aaron Jones take that role as the lead running back again. And in a favorable matchup, we're going to throw Aaron Jones here right behind Alvin Kamara at number 10 overall. Joe Mixon going up against New Orleans Saints. Joe Mixon has had a tough start to the season. He should have 4 more touchdowns than he has so far. The offensive line has really been struggling, but I don't think that this inefficiency keeps up for much longer. I think he starts putting it in the end zone. The touches are there on the ground and through the air. So and the offense has been struggling as a whole. I think this offense gets back on track, and I think Joe Mixon will progress in a positive direction due to that. So even though Joe Mixon has been low, I think you could actually consider him as a trade target and go buy him for a discount compared to what he should be worth rest of the season. So Joe Mixon, number 11 overall. Behind Joe Mixon, baby, we have Breece Lightning. I'm feeling like a genius with Breece Hall, so I love him a little bit more because right before his pop-off week, last week, I think, I traded A.J. Dillon and Rashad Bateman for Melvin Gordon and Breece Hall. And Breece Hall has really paid me back on that investment, and I love the prospect coming in from college. And he's finally starting to produce. He's not going to go backwards. If anything, he's going to continue to go forward. He had 27 points last week, and he almost had 40 because he had 2 touchdowns vultured by Michael Carter at the goal line, where he was a yard short on a big play and almost fell into the end zone. He didn't. He fell a yard short. Michael Carter comes in, runs it in. So My point there is that, we can't count points that didn't occur, but my point there is that the opportunities for a high ceiling are there. Like, he is capable of dropping 40-plus points. And I think the floor is there because the New York Jets offense has been pretty productive this year. Breece Hall, number 12 as a running back 1. Moving on to running back 2s, we have James Conner. Now, this is obviously going off of the Cliff Kingsbury, report or quote that he said that James Conner was okay. So going up against the 5th worst defense, allowing 25.6 fantasy points per game to the running back position. A healthy James Conner will fall into the end zone a few times and will, he'll service as a running back 2. James Conner, number 13 overall. 14 overall, we have Jeff Wilson, who has actually been doing really well for who he is and what for a backup running back. I mean, I should have known since he's on the 49ers that he can come in and serve as a running back too. But I've been very impressed and honestly shocked with how well Jeff Wilson's been doing this year. And going up against the Atlanta Falcons this week, I don't think it regresses at all. I think he continues to outperform what we all expected, giving you a 15 to 20 point game. So for those reasons, we're going to leave Jeff Wilson here at running back 2. Number 15, David Montgomery. Again, I was shocked by his performance last week. I thought that he would come in, split carries with Khalil Herbert, have a really lackluster performance, and instead he did the exact opposite. He came in, he proved himself on the ground, he proved himself through the air, and he was just a really solid fantasy football option. Basically, where we have him ranked right now, which is a solid RB2. David Montgomery is going to be our number 15th overall. 16 to 17 is ETN and James Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I put them back to back because I have more faith in Travis Etienne at this point moving forward. And I'm in a situation in one of my leagues where I have both of these players. And I got him after, or he was riding my bench for all of those very good 20-point games. I put him in. He drops 2 stinkers of like 4 and 5 points. But the story of this backfield is that Travis Etienne is starting to out-snap James Robinson. They have the high draft capital in Travis Etienne. They have more invested in Travis Etienne, so it makes sense. They're pivoting from James Robinson, who was an undrafted rookie, coming off of an ACL injury. He's looking like his burst that we were surprised that he had at the beginning of the year is starting to fade. Travis Etienne, he's starting to get up to game speed, and I think that Travis Etienne starts to outproduce James Robinson going forward. So I put them together just because I think it's a personal preference thing right now. But don't be surprised if Travis Etienne does better rest of season than James Robinson. Both of them, 16 and 17 as RB2s. And just to be clear, this is ranked off of probability in my head. So I'm not saying that they're going to both produce as running back 2 options. I'm saying the likelihood of them producing is where we have them ranked. But I personally, I would not be surprised if Travis Etienne gives us 15 to 20 points and James Robinson gives us another 5-point game. That's how I feel like the rest of the season will work itself out. But that being said, it all depends on the game script. If James Robinson gets those opportunities on the goal line and the Colts go, or the Jaguars go up fast on the Colts, we could see James Robinson having that bigger game. It really just is what you prefer at this point. Because I think we are on that pivot week from James Robinson to Travis Etienne. After those two, we have Melvin Gordon in a very favorable matchup against the LA Chargers, and actually the most favorable matchup you can ask for. Our running backs are just running all over this Chargers defense. They are allowing 28.9 points per game to the running back position. So Melvin Gordon being the obvious starter in Denver, we're looking to capitalize on this matchup. Melvin Gordon, 18 overall. Ken Walker, I'm really curious to see how this works out because Ken Walker is someone I've been investing in and just kind of stashing for a while now. We're never rooting for an injury, but since Rashad Penny is out for the rest of the season, Ken Walker being a high-profile rookie, stepping into that lead role in what has been a very productive offense compared to what we thought they were going to be, in a favorable matchup against the Arizona Cardinals. And when I say favorable, let me clarify here. I mean favorable in the sense of not bad. The Arizona Cardinals are kind of just dead middle, so I guess it's more whatever. The matchup is more whatever than favorable, just to be clear. But I think Ken Walker looked really good when he was in the backfield by himself. And I'm assuming he's going to keep taking steps forward, being that he is a rookie. So Ken Walker, look for him to be a running back 2 for the rest of the season. And if you can try to trade for him before this week, you're not spending a ton of, a lot of your team in these trades. But if you can get Ken Walker for next to nothing, just go ahead and get those feelers out there before this weekend, because he could have a big game and you might not be able to grab him again. Right behind Ken Walker at 20, we have Miles Sanders versus Dallas. This is tough because he's kind of a boom or bust situation. There are a lot of players on that offense that can vulture these rushing touchdowns from Miles Sanders. There's Boston Scott, there's Kenneth Gainwell. Unless they're injured, I don't think they are. But the big one is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been vulturing the goal line touches. But then again, you see those weeks where Miles Sanders drops 30-plus points. So, this is a divisional matchup. Could be a high-scoring game. Probably not, though. The Dallas Cowboys have been absolutely incredible. But sometimes the rivalry matchup kind of changes the identity of these teams, and they just duke it out. So, I like Miles Sanders' ceiling here, but I'm a little bit nervous about the touchdowns being vultured. Miles Sanders, number 20th overall. 21, we have Devin Singletary. If you want to talk about a shootout, this is the shootout. Devin Singletary had a very rough week last week, but it's because they blew the Steelers out of the water. Devin Singletary didn't need to play. James Cook came in, took the touches. Look for Devin Singletary to be involved in the passing game, in the running game, be that lead back, and give you a really solid production this week in a very high-powered matchup. I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is right behind Devin Singletary because a lot of what I said about Devin Singletary applies to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't like either back. I don't like the talent there, to be honest. But I think this matchup is just going to be an absolute shootout. So even though Buffalo is very good on the defensive side of the ball, I think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are the story of this game, and I really don't think that they're going to be outshadowed by the defenses, and they're going to have a shootout. And I think these running backs are going to have the opportunities in the red zone to score. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 22. All right, right behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we have J.K. Dobbins. We're kind of getting into that gross range. J.K. Dobbins, I'm not comfortable starting him by any means. You probably have to if you have him, based off of the landscape of the running back position this week. The good news is that the Ravens are a very good offense. So even though the Giants are they're a top 10 defense against the run, I'm just confident in the overall offense of the Ravens, and I think that's so important because J.K. Dobbins' value really comes from those goal line touches and falling into the end zone. So if you're starting him, that's what you're betting on, and I think that the Ravens' offense alone gives him those opportunities to score. J.K. Dobbins, second to last running back 2 on our list here. Our last running back 2 for this week is going to be Raheem Mostert. He really stepped up last week and showed us that he can be, when healthy, he can be that running back 2 option. He rushed for over 100 yards last week. He's going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who are allowing 22 fantasy points per game to the running back position. Chase Edmonds is absolutely non-existent. It's looking like Myles Gaskins is starting to outsnap him. So if you're involved with Chase Edmonds or Myles Gaskin, get out of there. The good news is that Raheem Mostert is taking the lion's share of the touches in a pretty good offense. I mean, I know the quarterback situation is a little bit iffy, but they still have Tyreek Hill. They still have Jalen Waddle, who can break the offense wide open. And I think Raheem Mostert is going to have those opportunities because if you think about it, without Tua and a rookie quarterback, I think it was an undrafted rookie quarterback, they're going to try to take it out of his hands as much as possible. And if the run is working, Raheem Mostert's going to be a beneficiary of that. So Raheem Mostert's going to be the last running back 2 on our list in week 6. The final running backs of the week on your screen now. Don't get too hung when we start to get this far down the list. Don't get too hung up on where they're ranked with each other. Just know that they're a last resort, basically, because I think a lot of these guys are going to be touchdown dependent, very touchdown dependent. See A.J. Dillon at 25. C, Ezekiel Elliott at 26, Kareem Hunt at 27, Najee Harris at 28. I think all four of those guys are almost like tight ends in the fact, not the amount of fantasy points that they're going to score, but in the fact that if they don't fall into the end zone, I don't think they have a whole lot of value. So with these guys, I think that it's kind of like a shot in the dark. So, I mean, if you want to rank any of these guys over each other, I don't mind. The fact of the matter is we're not comfortable starting these guys. And if this is a flex play, I'd rather play a wide receiver on the bench. I think I'd even rather play an Isaiah McKenzie over any of these guys. But if you don't have the option, you're hoping for that touchdown. A.J. Dillon, 25, Zeke, 26, Kareem Hunt, 27, Najee Harris, 28. I think Tony Pollard's a little bit different just because you don't necessarily have to bank on a touchdown from him just because he is so explosive and can break that big play. But I do think that Zeke is going to perform pretty well, even though it's a tough matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that he usually performs when going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm a little bit lower on Tony Pollard this week in this matchup than I would be normally when compared to Ezekiel Elliott. But Tony Pollard is going to be involved. It's just a matter of how much and what he does with that involvement. So we're going to put Tony Pollard at 29. Cam Akers, man. I don't even want to have him on this list. I am praying. Honestly, I probably should have him lower, just the way I'm talking about it right now and the way I feel inside. Like, Cam Akers is just disgusting to me. You do not want to be starting him if you have the option. He is going up against the Carolina Panthers, which is a very favorable matchup, allowing 24.2 fantasy points per game to the running back position. I'm just not excited about it. I don't think Sean McVay's excited about it. I don't think anyone's excited about the Los Angeles Rams run game, and we don't really have a reason to be excited about it. So we're going to have to put him here just off of the opportunity and the offense overall and the matchup, I guess. But, I'm really not excited about it. It's kind of gross, so I'm going to stop talking about it. Cam Akers, 30. Brian Robinson. I'll throw this up here as a trade target. Again, this is kind of a Ken Walker situation, and allow this trade target screen to apply to Ken Walker. We didn't hit it earlier on, but Brian Robinson is a younger running back that he outperformed Antonio Gibson in the preseason. I said he's an Alabama running back, right? All those running back. Let me hold on. I gotta confirm this. Brian Robinson College. I don't want to be talking out of my ass here. Yeah, Alabama. And the reason that's so important is because the Alabama running backs that have come into the NFL have all produced to a certain degree. So I'm not surprised that now that we're getting Brian Robinson back, I wouldn't be surprised if he completely out-touches Antonio Gibson. But the reason I have them back-to-back is I do think this is a touchdown-dependent type of thing just because of the three-headed monster that we have in that backfield. I think the matchup is great against the Chicago Bears. The issue is that, Antonio Gibson's still going to get touches. Brian Robinson's going to get his touches. J.D. McKissic's going to get his touches. So it's almost a matter of, since the touches are spread out so thin, I think it's a matter of whoever falls in the end zone. But rest of season, I think Brian Robinson, I wouldn't be surprised if he earns the starting role just outright from Antonio Gibson. So Brian Robinson, 31, Antonio Gibson, 32. Mike Boone, again, we're trying not to start him if we can. I think that he's going to have opportunities in this game. Latavius Murray is going to be eligible to play, so I think that we're going to see a little bit of him. You got to remember that this is a very favorable matchup, and Mike Boone did look pretty explosive on the receiving, with the receiving touches and even the running touches that he got last week against the Colts on Amazon Prime on Thursday. He actually looked pretty decent. He had a good amount of burst, but I just don't think the touches are there. I think Melvin Gordon is that bona fide number one running back in Denver now that Javonte Williams is out for the rest of the season. But he is going to get the touches. So Mike Boone, 33. Behind him, we have Michael Carter for the simple fact that he did vulture 2 touchdowns from Breece Hall last week. He's still getting touches, and I've said this and gotten pushback on it, but he's on a pretty good offense. The Jets are actually a pretty decent offense this year. They're going to have opportunities in the red zone, so Michael Carter is going to have opportunities to fall into the end zone for a score here, a score there. So Michael Carter, as long as he's getting some of the, a percentage of those touches, especially if they're going to be at the goal line, we're going to throw Michael Carter in here at 34. Tyler Algier. This is disgusting. Like, I mean disgusting. And I'll tell you why. Hold on. San Francisco 49ers. 15.2 fantasy points per game to the running back position. Atlanta Falcons. Enough said. Low draft capital. Running back. Hasn't produced on a professional scale. Tyler Algier is not exciting, but he is going to be that starting running back in Atlanta, which is gross, yes, but he will have those opportunities because they have no one else to give the opportunities to. For whatever reason, they don't like using their stud wide receiver and tight end. They don't like passing the ball, so they are going to put the ball on the ground a little bit this week, and Tyler Algier is going to get those touches, so I don't like starting him, but, you know, when push comes to shove, maybe you have to start him, and he's going to be one of those running backs. At the very least, he will get some volume. So Tyler Algier, number 35 overall. And our last player on the list is going to be Alexander Madison in the same matchup as Dalvin Cook against the Miami Dolphins. I will remind you again that 21.3 fantasy points per game against the running back position are allowed by the Dolphins. And Alexander Madison does get some touches on the goal line. We have seen him vulture some of those touchdowns from Dalvin Cook, which has been very frustrating if you're a Dalvin Cook owner. But the new coaching staff really does like utilizing Alexander Madison as they should. He's a supreme talent, and he's, unfortunately for him, he's behind one of the best running backs in the league. But if he went to any other team, he would be an absolute stud. So even if it's limited volume, he is getting volume on a pretty good offense, and he's a very good player. So Alexander Madison, number 36 overall. That's going to do it for the video today. As I usually do, I will pull up lineups.com and show you the source I'm using for the points scored against. We have a running back position selected, full PPR selected, and you can just go through and check out the rankings of these defenses and how they bode against the fantasy running back position. But again, appreciate all the support. If you're new to the channel, go down, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button. We go live every week on Sunday before the first game kicks off. So in this span of time, I think this is the last week where we have a London game. So I will be live at around 8:30. And then moving forward, whoa, holy shit, I can't talk. Moving forward, we're going to be live at 11:30 on those weekends where football starts at 1 o'clock. So look out for that, and then like the video. You know, we've been getting a lot of support. I've been really enjoying the community that we've been building. The lives are a lot of fun just to hop in, talk football right when we wake up. So come join us. Thank you for all the support. Running back ranking videos come out Tuesday or Wednesday. Wide receiver ranking videos come out every Wednesday or Thursday. And that's really just to help you guys prepare for the season, for the week coming up, and hopefully lead you to a championship year. So thank you all again. Appreciate the support. Let me know how you guys feel about the rankings down there in the comments. Peace out.